Even from the most unimaginable circumstances, there's resilience. It's just like a rubber band. I know a thing or two about resilience, about a rubber band, and what it means to live your life in such a passionate, unbelievable way. I was the girl next door. I was the daughter for rent. Daughter for rent, you say, how can you rent out a daughter? That's so unimaginable. I know, right? But that was me. Over 16 years of my life, I endured incest. I was in pornography, I was exploited, and I was sex trafficked. All at the hands of a serial sex offender pimp who was also my father. I know, for some of you this is going to be tough, so I'm going to warn you ahead of time. Going off topic for a second, it is a tough talk. But I want you to breathe as I have a conversation with you today, because this is a talk that each and every one of you, it will move you to a place of inspiration and a place of action. Because you see, I am living proof. I am living proof that more than education, that more than experience, that more than training, you can overcome anything that happens to you in your life. Hundreds and hundreds of Americans are sexually violated every single day. And every 109 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. Every 8 minutes, that victim is a child. And every 2 minutes, children are exploited. They're sold and they are sex trafficked. 35% of sex trafficking victims, it's by a family member. That's called familial sex trafficking. That's pretty much my story and my journey. And the average age, it's 13 years old for little girls. 12 years old for little boys. And 70 to 92% of sex trafficking survivors between the ages of 3 and 5 years old, they were sexually violated. I have an incredible new perspective of what it is to live life, of what it is for sexual violence, because I want to tell you something. Each and every one of you, directly or indirectly, is affected by sexual violence, by violence of all kinds. Guess what? Just turn on the news. That's all you have to do today. I'm going to take you on a journey. And I hope you join me on this journey. Because we are going to go back. And for some of us, it's going to be way back. And we're going to go back to a place in your childhood. A place where you loved to color. You there with me? You got it? Right? It's right there in your head? All right. You have all the colors. You're so excited. You're coloring away. And then all of a sudden, that person that you trust walks up behind you. And you get that feeling, you know that feeling, that one deep, deep down here inside of your stomach, that icky feeling. And then what do you think happens? All of a sudden you color outside the lines. And you're like, oh no, what's going to happen next? And then you hear those words. What is wrong with you? You can't follow directions. You are so disorganized. Well, I wonder how many of you are carrying those exact words around with you. How many of you today are still carrying those actions around with you? How is it affecting you in your everyday life? How is it stopping you? Because you know what? I don't care if you're a billionaire. I don't care if you're a CEO. The truth of the matter is we all have something. And if you don't figure out what that something is, it is stopping you because your potential is so much more. And I wonder, how many of you are dragging those words and those actions? Literally, it's a ball. It's an anchor that's around your ankle. Think about that for a moment. Resonate with that for a moment. You know, the past we inherit and the future we create, the Talmud. A lot of people will say to me, how are you so resilient? How did you get through what you lived in your life? And look, I know what I went through, you probably don't get, right? You don't understand it. You're saying, I didn't go through that. But here's the thing. This is how I made it through. As a young girl, I can remember laying on my ballerina bedspread, just laying there, and I would look above the door, and I would pray, and I would ask, why me? What did I do to deserve to be sexually, physically, and mentally abused for 16 years of my life? But at that time when I was that little girl, it was about 3 years of my life. And this is the answer. One day, you will know. And now I know. Because you see, I have the honor and privilege to walk along other survivors, to walk along with them, to find their power, to find their strength, to stand in who they are, because they are survivors. They are thrivers. They are warriors, just like you. I was raised Catholic and Greek Orthodox, and I converted to Judaism over 32 years ago. So yes, I know, I got all those bases covered too, right? You're like, dang, girl, did you make up your mind here? Yeah, I know. But I think you can see for me, just having that bond, having something to hold on to, knowing that it would get me always to the other side. There was a time I received a phone call. Yes, that is my father. And I received this phone call, and it was from my older brother. And he said, sis, you got to come to the hospital. It's Dad's last rites. Now, I'm sure you can only imagine for me to go to the hospital for this man's last rites was the last thing I ever wanted to do. And you're right about that. But I went. And I'm there, and I'm talking to the nurses because he was a serial sex offender, and I'm asking her, are you sure they have it all over his records that he is a sex offender and he is registered? And she's like, what? Now, this man had already been in the hospital for 10 days. He grunted. Can you imagine thinking you're going for someone's last rites, and a part of you is kind of like, that could be kind of okay. And this man grunts, and the nurse is like, did you hear that? And I said, what do you think that means? And she goes, I don't know. And then we start talking some more, and then all of a sudden you hear, Connie. And I'm like, ooh, this is a God moment. What am I supposed to do with this? And this is what happened. Many of you know Tuesdays with Maury. That's what we did. My father lived 9 more months. Can you believe that? 9 more months he lived. But we did Tuesdays with Maury. We would meet for lunch. We would meet for dinner. I would take him to the doctor. I personally needed to know, who was this man? Why would he have over 300 victims? More importantly, why would he do what he did to me? Because I was his natural born daughter. And I found out And quite honestly, that's a whole nother TED Talk, okay? But today, it was all about forgiveness. It was all about forgiveness, yes, for him. Not that it was okay, but that he was a human being. And he did something really not quite nice. But what it was really about was me. It was about forgiveness to myself and for myself, for all that guilt, for all that shame that I carried around with me for years and years, and for the silence of all his victims. Life. Life is like a rubber band. You see, my father passed away on my birthday. Is that not called resiliency? Is that not the greatest gift that one can give you? But life is like a rubber band. It stretches, it flexes, it bounces back. So I'm just curious. So how many of you are going to just let something go? How many of you are going to make a decision right now, in this moment in time, that all that baggage that you've been carrying around with you like an anchor around your ankle is gone? Life isn't what happened to you. Life is what you do with it. And you don't have to be the whole staircase, because I'm sure some of you are thinking, this trauma stuff, yeah, sure, I'm going to totally buy into it. But I don't know, this whole resilience thing and forgiveness stuff and all that ain't going to happen. But think about it. You don't have to climb the mountain, the whole mountain. You don't have to climb the whole staircase. This is what I want you to do, and I want you to do it with me. You're going to take that first step. That's right. Come on. You can do it in your head. Take that first step. When you do, you will move mountains. Exactly 3 years ago, I met a young girl, and I met her at a conference. She was supposed to give a radio show, and she didn't, because we agreed. She was very young, she was very fragile, she was a blonde young woman, and we agreed that this was not going to happen. But this is what happened. She went into a program for domestically sex trafficked young women. She was not going to ever sleep in a bed, which I totally got it. She couldn't. We went and we bought her a beautiful bedspread that opened up with butterflies. And one day I was called to the home where she was living. And I was asked to please come, and I came as quickly as I could because I travel nationally. And I walk in there and everyone is crying. And I'm wondering, oh my goodness, what happened to her? To my little Ashley Ray, because I became Aunt Connie. And I walk in, and there she is. Not just laying on top of her bed, she is laying underneath of the covers. That was her first step. That's what she did to move her life forward. Now, it took about 2 to 3 months as her trauma starts to unfold. And she wrote this beautiful poem to me that I'd like to read to you. And I apologize, but I'm literally going to read it to you because it brings me to tears. My life was weak and so very small, and I felt like I was nothing at all. I did not know anyone cared. Will he hit me today? Will he take my world away? Will it be today that I cry? Today that I die? When will my hero come along and take my hand to make me strong, to chase away my worst fears, and to prove that someone really cares? Someone to hold me tight, and someone to help me win this fight. Thank God at last she is here. No more do I have to be scared. No more do I have to cry or even wonder why. There's only one thing left to do, and that is to say, thank you. Be resilient. Be your own hero.